Hello, welcome back to Marathon Man, where I'm going through Doctor Who from the very beginning. You join me as we recap Season 2. Doctor Who's second season built on the strengths of the first and added even more ingredients into the mix. Not only did the principal cast change once, it changed twice. We finished this season with a completely different lineup from how we started it. We lost Susan, we gained Vicky. We lost Ian and Barbara, we gained Stephen. And the Doctor himself rode these waves and emerged as a greater hero than we ever thought he could based on his first appearance way back in An Unearthly Child. Season 2 showed that Doctor Who couldn't just embrace change, it could hug it to death. The seismic shift of William Russell and Jacqueline Hill making their departure could have had a colossal impact on the show, especially with Susan having also gone. Yet the Time Meddler just kind of gets on with it, and if we were in any doubt, it showed us that the show is just going to continue pushing forward and be really good at doing so. 9 stories, 39 episodes that saw the Travellers shrunk down to an inch tall, rescue a stranded girl from the future become embroiled in Emperor Nero's court before the Great Fire of Rome, liberate a race of giant insectoid aliens from a malevolent force, rescue Barbara from Saladin while dabbling in intrigue in the court of Richard the Lionheart, fight their own future in a space museum, put the kibosh on a time vandal disguised as a monk, and come up against their most enduring enemies, the Daleks, not once, but twice, defeating an invasion on a global scale on 22nd century Earth, and then running away from them a bit. And of Season 1's 42 episodes, only 9 remain missing, and that means that Season 1 is considered fairly well represented. Season 2, there's only 2 missing, which means that Season 2 is tantalisingly very nearly complete, and that's a pleasing thought when you think about what could have been. Season 1 usually remains fairly constant in my opinion. It's a pretty strong parade of solid 4s and 5s, I mean with the Sensorites and the Keys of Marinus notwithstanding, whereas Season 2 feels slightly choppier, and as with every marathon I've done so far, this time was no exception, and it chopped and changed again. I had just started to come around to the Web Planet the last time I watched it, but here it fell back a few places again, became hard work. And it turns out I can like the chase even less than I used to. More importantly, now that there have been 17 stories, we've got enough for a top 10. So, what do the top 10 stories at this point in the marathon look like? Two episodes of trippy weirdness which unsettle, but also gracefully line up our 4 regulars for more adventures with less of the animosity and tension which hung over An Unearthly Child and the Daleks, and ultimately this one. That's quite a lot to get done in under an hour without skimping on imagination. Far stronger than is often made out. I have a sneaking suspicion this has moved up a little bit because I could have sworn I used to have the rescue and the Edge of Destruction above it, but hey, that's the point of these marathons, to see if things change. And it seems I enjoy this story a tiny bit more than I used to. Lovely. So, this has gone from 4 to 9 in the space of Season 2, which gives you an indication of how many from the second season have made it into the top 10. That's natural, I suppose. Doctor Who's first ever story is a fantastic statement of intent and proof of concept, but as it goes on, it becomes more confident in its abilities and refines them. Case in point. First new entry on this list, and it's not just Doctor Who's first sequel, it's the sequel which is better than the original, partly because of a scope far greater than in the show's first year. Extensive location filming and upscaling the Dalek threat, and a Doctor Who is far more proactive in the heroics than he has been before, all combine to make this the most epic that Doctor Who had been at this point. And it's also our farewell to Susan, and Hartnell and Ford knock it out of the park. I worried, jokingly, in the recap of Season 1 that I'd be in trouble for having this above the Daleks, but yeah, I've even got it above the Dalek invasion of Earth too. Before you think I've gone completely doolally, hear me out. I still think this is one of the most formative stories in the entire show when it comes to the evolving character of the Doctor. Yeah, he is the fully formed hero in the Dalek invasion of Earth, but I think it's in this story that he takes the biggest step towards that from his early beginnings. It's me. Of course the historicals of Season 2 were going to make an appearance. The Romans is the first example, in my opinion, of Doctor Who flexing its range when it comes to how many genres it can cover. At this point, it had made it obvious that it could do the past, it could do the future, and it could do other worlds. It had also made us laugh at the same time as trying to scare us. It had also made us empathise with the characters' plights. And here it decided it was just going to, do you know what? We're just going to fully lean in to one particular direction and show you that we can be whatever genre we like. And so it's Doctor Who showing off in that regard, but it's earned it and it does it really well. Maybe a surprise to be this high, and time-wise it would have been for me as well. As I said when I covered it, it's a story which I don't forget about it as such. It sort of wears a perception filter and tends to catch me off guard. Possibly because it's home to the only 2 episodes missing in Season 2, but for whatever the reason, I don't think I'm going to be overlooking it in future. I think this is an absolutely fantastic story that does not get the props it deserves. The only entirely missing story on this list so far. Marco Polo is a highlight of Doctor Who's early years and easily a contender for my most wished for return one day. The rumour a few years ago of it returning alongside the Enemy of the World and the Web of Fear was so persistent that I allowed myself to hope. But even without that rumour, I still think I would have hoped anyway. Heck, I still hope. So, which story is now going to be number 1? Yep, the Aztecs has been deposed from the top spot. I hope it enjoyed its brief spell there. And look, there's very little between stories this high up. It might even be down to how the wind's blowing, because this is another change in what I would consider my usual opinion. Best story of Doctor Who's first 2 seasons? Well, yeah, time-wise I would have said this one. With its deceptively clever script, its amazing guest stars and interpersonal drama between the leads with some fantastic comic beats, but it just seems like it's now got competition, because while I would have assumed this would have been a close second at this point when I started the marathon, I think the quiet, almost nonchalant foundation shaking this one does to the whole entire show is to be applauded. Actually, no, it's to be ovated. Playing even on a meta level with the perceived production values of the show to pull the rug from under the viewer and invent a new genre of story in the pseudo-historical, while expanding the universe even more to include more of the Doctor's own people, all of that within 4 episodes while still feeling like it's taking its time. Outstanding. Given that he's only just been introduced to us, it seems a little bit unfair to appraise Stephen alongside the other companions, so we'll leave him out for now and put him into the mix at the end of Season 3 when we've got to know him a little bit better. But let's take a look at the others so far. Just because she stands in 4th place does not mean that I dislike Susan. Far from it. I think she had the makings of an excellent character, the potential of which shone through quite a lot in her later stories. Carol Ann Ford can only do so much with what she was given, but she did it fantastically. Okay, so her depiction in The Planet of Giants might have taken a slight step back following the final 2 stories in Season 1, but she comes back kicking in the Dalek invasion of Earth once her sprained ankle is healed, giving some sass and lip to the sour and dour Jenny. She also had an absolutely brilliant departure scene, and thanks to Carol Ann Ford, her absence is very keenly felt. Vicky. Pallister. I know her surname is given in the expanded media, but I don't think it's ever given in the show, is it? Brought in as a replacement for Susan, she has developed into much more than that, even in such a relatively short space of time. Initially, thanks to some clever acting choices from Maureen O'Brien, and subsequently due to some much better scripts being thrown her way. A much stronger presence than Susan, Vicky is able to be the surrogate granddaughter to the Doctor and the smart talking girl from the future when bouncing off Ian and Barbara. It feels from a very early stage, maybe not the exact planning stages where it was obvious that she was going to be just the surrogate for Susan, but a little bit later on when Maureen O'Brien got her hands on the character and then the writers did too, she's just a much more rounded and fleshed out character. Having been with the show from the off until almost the end of its second season, William Russell worked wonders as Ian. If I'm in a grumpy mood, I might complain that he didn't seem to evolve as a character as much as his crewmates, because he was always the dependable, reliable Ian, but he was always very good value. Able to do the physical stuff that the Doctor sometimes couldn't, Ian also had moments of true bravery. While the Daleks weren't exactly their most menacing in the chase, they are still the Daleks, and Ian is more than game at fighting them again, when a lot of companions, having met them in the Daleks and the Dalek invasion of Earth, might have turned and run. So, for one last time, for a very long time, good old Ian. No surprise here, still the best. If I loved her at the end of the first season, then I love her even more at the end of the second. The character with perhaps the most growth over the course of the series so far, and potentially responsible for the most growth in the Doctor's character as well. She was always just utterly wonderful to watch. Jacqueline Hill was either a phenomenal actor who understood to the molecule what the character and the show were about, or she was just a thoroughly lovely person putting herself on screen. Truth is, she was likely both. Able to be believable and endearing when talking to giant moths or running a truck over a load of Daleks, or standing up spectacularly to Roman slave traders, she remains, to this day, my favourite companion. Sure, this marathon has seen my opinions on stories change, and I am approaching it with an open mind, fully aware that long-held beliefs can change. So maybe this time another companion might usurp her. But I kind of doubt it. So, the marathon reaches season 3, and I am more than up for it, but also well aware of what lies ahead. There comes a point on this season where I usually need a breather and an orange slice and a talk to myself, but I am determined to keep the pace up. Although with only 17 episodes of its 45, which is a little over a third still existing, this will see more reconstructions than the previous 2 seasons combined. In fact, more than double the amount of reconstructions than the previous 2 seasons combined, and that's even taking into account that the missing episodes of Galaxy 4 are now animated, and there's been a painstakingly recreated live-action version of the Mission to the Unknown, courtesy of the University of Central Lancashire. But despite the amount of reconstructions, I shall not let it deter me. Regardless of the long stretches of missing episodes, I know full well that there is treasure that lies within season 3, and I don't know about you, but I am very keen to get to it. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the marathon so far, then you know how YouTube works. Please give the videos a like. It helps more people find the channel, find the marathon, and stand more chance of running it alongside us. And how does season 2 measure up for you? Is it an improvement on season 1, or is it a step down? Or is that like asking you to compare 2 beloved children? How do your rankings compare to mine? Is it insanity to have the Crusade above the Dalek invasion of Earth? Or is it insanity to only have it at number 4? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you back here for a race against time on a silent planet. And if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button, clang the cloister bell, and I'll meet you in Galaxy 4. See you soon.